Loud and clear?
Yep.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike and Nick. It's an honor to be asked to be on the call. Like Mike had said, what's awesome about the Alliance and our company is that there is no financial incentive here. It's just we want to help each other win. And Lord knows along the way, I'll tell you guys a little bit of how I got here, but Davies and Mark and everybody on y'all's team has helped me significantly. So I hope that I can give you guys something tonight to just take immediately into your business first thing tonight or tomorrow morning, just ASAP, just start to implement it. So let me just back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about me and who I am. Again, my name is Megan Yeakey. I have been in the business for 6 years, and I didn't grow up thinking I was gonna be an insurance agent. I don't know if any of us did, right? But we all kind of ended up here in different ways. My story is a little unique only because I'm kind of I am a second generation in the Alliance. And when I was 14, that was the first time I was actually introduced to the Alliance. I'm 28 now, and I started coming around the big events and getting around Andy and getting around Fitz and getting around the culture. And just from a young age, I was really blessed to be surrounded by people like this who spoke life into me and showed me not just with their words, but with their action and work ethic, that if you worked really hard and put stuff out there and got a little bit uncomfortable, that big things could happen for you. And I saw that, but still, went down the path of working. I worked in a restaurant environment for years while I was in college, and I did well there, was in management, loved it, but didn't really want to be there forever. And I went to University of Houston, got a finance degree, graduated in December of 2015. And in January of 2016, I found myself back at an Alliance National Convention, which I had been before. Like I said, I grew up around the Alliance, and so I had been coming to events since I was about 14. But this time, it was a little bit of a different agenda. I had just graduated college. I was in this season of my life where I didn't really know what was ahead. I just knew that I had to find a job. And I thought I was going to go the corporate route. But when I went to this convention in 2016, my life just forever changed. I had a conversation with somebody there that weekend that really helped me see that if I just did this and gave it my all, that it would work out. That I just had to decide that this is what I was going to do and commit to it and do that every single day. And that's what I've done ever since. I've learned a lot along the way and from a lot of people. It is by no means I've not gotten here by myself. That same weekend, speaking of not getting here by myself, that same weekend that I was in North Carolina at a national convention with the Alliance, that night that I made the decision that I was going to stop looking for a corporate job and do the Alliance full time and be an insurance agent. The next night is when I met my husband, Jonathan. So we've been doing this together since then. So for years, we both run business. We both, hire agents. So we both do everything. Okay. And so we both we've learned a lot from each other and from our managers, from the rest of the team, but we've definitely done it together. Right. So that's we'll always lean back on that. There's so much to learn, and there's so many things that you'll learn along the way that being together is the most important thing. You got to stick together with this. So that's just a little bit about me. And kind of something that Mike had touched on. I was brought into the business by my parents, Mike and Michelle Alleman, and they are on the call tonight. Hey, Mom. So he kind of touched on this, and I'll tell you guys, but my mom's been with the Alliance. Both my parents have been with the Alliance for about 14 years. I guess it's been 15 years now. And back in October of 2021, my mom was diagnosed with leukemia. And for years, for the last 14, 15 years, she's been a top producer with the company. And because she had built this agency and this book of business, although we've had to slow down and she's had to slow down and focus on her health, she's still, it hasn't skipped a beat, right? She's still able to work her book of business that she's been building over the last 14 years and still keep going. So we've learned a lot from that, and we're just going to keep fighting. I know she is too. And there's going to be an incredible story that comes from this. And she's still working, y'all. Like, it's inspiring. Yeah, it's just inspiring. She's still killing it. So still on the top of the leaderboards, and has been in the hospital fighting this leukemia since October. So, but things are looking up. We're hoping that her and my dad are going to be in Cancun with us in June. So for you guys that are coming on the trip with us in Cancun, I cannot wait to hang out with you guys on these trips and to get to know you better. And we're excited for that. So I'll go ahead and go into kind of the nuts and bolts of the training tonight. There's a few things, like I said, there's things that you're going to pick up along the way, but I'm just going to kind of give you some tools to maybe help you in the home. If you don't already have a pen and paper, go ahead and grab one, because I'm going to give you some acronyms that I need you to write down so that it makes sense. Okay. I know a lot of you guys are working leads and working warm market and working referrals. And so I'm going to start with the lead part. I'm going to kind of go over final expense and how 3 ways that you can kind of help define better how the final expense works, so that you can lead that client into a sale, right? So with final expense, there's 3 ways that you can pay for a funeral, and you guys may have already heard this before. So I might just be repeating something, but I may say it some differently that you may catch, that you might like better, and you can use it. But there's 3 ways to pay for a funeral, okay? When I'm in a home, like if I've got a lead and I'm in a home, I actually wrote this. This is a real lead from the other day. I wrote this down, same way I'm going to tell you guys now. But I explained to them that there's 3 ways that you can pay for a funeral. Do you know what those ways are? And most people say no. Okay, well, let me explain it to you. So I'm going to explain it to you from worst to best way, all right? And you just flip the lead around. And on the top of the page, you write worst. And then with an arrow down the page, then you write best, like that, okay? So you say, what do you think the worst way to pay for a funeral is? If I'm talking with Anita here, okay? So Anita, what's the worst way you think that you would pay for a funeral? And they'd tell you, and they'd probably say, well, just with my own money. Yeah, that's not the best way to pay for one, right? But really the worst way would be using a credit card, right? You leave your family, right, exactly. Someone said borrow the money. Thanks for chiming in. Someone said borrow the money. That is right. So you'd have to borrow the money. If you didn't know this, if someone passes away and you don't have a great credit score, you can actually go get a credit card to pay for something like this. Not ideal. That's why it's the worst way, because we leave our family with that burden of having to pay for it plus interest. Doesn't sound great, right? Now, the next best way would be a prepaid funeral. Now, prepaid funerals are not bad, but there's just a trick to them, right? You got to understand how they work. So do you understand how prepaid funerals work, Miss Anita? And she'd say, well, I don't know. Okay, let me explain it to you. Again, they're not bad. They're just a trick to them, right? So the way that the prepaids work, let's say, Anita, that you go to the funeral home and you pay them $120 a month, right? But your your funeral expense is going to be $10,000. Okay. Let's say you live 2 years and you've only paid in, I'm just going to round the number, $2,400. Okay. You're paying $120 a month and you've paid in $2,400 and you've passed away at this point. Well, guess what? Your funeral is still going to cost $10,000. Now, where do you think that other $7,600 is going to come from, Miss Anita? It's going to have to come from someone in the family, right? The prepaid doesn't mean that it is like paid upon passing. It just means that when someone passes away, whatever you've paid goes towards the funeral expense. Does that make sense? She's like, oh, I didn't know it worked that way. Yeah, most of the time they won't tell you that, but that's how they work. And then the best way is cents on the dollar. Now, what do you think that means, Miss Anita? You're probably going to say, well, I don't know. Life insurance? Exactly. You got it right. Cents on the dollar. So, Miss Anita, you're going to pay $120 a month, same amount, but you're going to have $10,000 in coverage, and it's going to pay that full $10,000 upon your passing rather than whatever you paid in. Now, which one of those sounds like the best option to you? All the time, they're going to say that the cents on the dollar, the insurance is going to make the most sense, right? So that's kind of how we explain the worst to best way. And when you explain it like that and write it down for them, it makes it a little bit more clear. I say it and I write it and I show it to them. Because I just want them to really comprehend what I'm saying. I'll even have them repeat it back to me so they really understand. So that's with final expense, the 3 ways that we can explain how that works. Awesome. Glad that helps, Nathan. Okay. Oh yeah, Sal. Sal said the absolute worst way is the $255 from Social Security. You are correct. Yeah, Social Security, whenever people send these postcards back in, the reason that they're mailing these, or whenever the state is mailing these out, the reason they're mailing these out is because they want to make sure that the residents in that state, I live in Texas, so the residents in that state know that there's something additional outside of that $255 that Social Security gives them upon people's passing. Because we know that $255 is not near enough to pay for a funeral expense. It's not even enough to buy a shovel, right? So that is how we explain the worst to best way. The next little trick I'm going to go over is I use this when I'm working with a referral or a warm market, or even on a mortgage protection lead. If someone is having trouble identifying their need for coverage, this has worked really well for me. So it's a really easy acronym to remember. We sell life insurance and the acronym is LIFE. So you're just going to write LIFE down the page. Okay. Now next to the L, you're going to write. Now you'll explain, there's 4 reasons why people buy life insurance, okay? Typically. The first one is going to be loans or mortgage. Loans and mortgage. The next reason why people buy life insurance is for income replacement. And next to this part, I'll say typically people have this through their work life insurance. That's what we consider their income replacement. That gets rid of the, oh, I have life insurance through work objection. The third way, or the third reason why people buy life insurance is for funeral expenses or final expense insurance. Same thing, funeral expenses. And then the last reason why people buy life insurance is for education or legacy. All right, education/legacy. So the warm market, referral, mortgage lead, whatever it is, I'm going to actually have I'm going to go through this with them for their specific situation. So I'll just make up some numbers. So let's just say somebody has a mortgage of $300,000, and they've also got, let's just say, $50,000 in student loans. So next to where it has loans, mortgage, I'm going to write down $300,000 and then $50,000. $300,000 for their mortgage, that's what's left on their balance, and then $50,000 in student loans. Income replacement, let's just say that they make $100,000 a year. Okay. The insurance companies recommend that we have 10 to 20 times our income covered with our life insurance. Okay. So let's just say that they're going to do 10 times their income. That's $1 million in coverage right there. They may already have 500,000 of it at work. So you can write that work coverage. Okay. And then final expenses. Now, the average cost of a funeral is going to be anywhere between, and I'll let them answer this. What do you think the average cost of a funeral is? Have you had to, have you been through that experience recently with anybody close in the family, friends? And I'll let them tell me what they think it is. And yes, I can. The average cost of a funeral is anywhere between $8,000 to $15,000. Okay, it changes. It depends on where you're living, but safe bet is about $12,000. That's today, but with inflation and all that, when we don't know when we're going to die. Hopefully, it's way in the future. So let's just say it's probably going to be about $20,000. All right. And let's assume that this person has 2 kids. And they are 5 and 6. Education costs for them, I'm going to ask them what they think education is going to cost by the time their kids get to college years. Most of the time, people say anywhere between $15,000 to $40,000 a year. So I think a safe place is anywhere like about $30,000. Let's just assume it's going to be that. With 2 kids, $30,000 a year. It's late. I can't do the math in my head. 30,000 times 4, that's 120,000 times 2 kids, right? Because 4 years in college, that's 30,000 times 4 years times 2, because there's 2 kids. That's 240,000 in coverage they would need right there. So all I'm doing with this is trying to identify how much coverage this person really needs so that we can work backwards. Right? So let's add this up. Got loans, mortgages, 300,000, student loans, 50,000. They've got 500,000 through work, but with income replacement, they'd really like to have 10 years of their income replaced if something were to have happened to them last week. So since they have 500,000 through work, we'll add another 500 to make up the difference, plus 20,000 for final expenses, plus 240,000 for education expenses for their kids. So what have we got that up to? The need for this person for their life insurance, we've got that up to 1.1 million roughly. Is everybody sticking with me? Have I lost anyone yet? If you have a question, let me know. Okay. So all we're doing is identifying the need. Now, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to get them this amount of coverage, but what I'm trying to do is help them understand that this is the need. Okay. Now we've got to find what's affordable and figure out what you can qualify for. Because we can work up to that amount of coverage, but now we know what this person really needs. And it becomes really clear to them that what they have through their work, 500,000 is clearly not even close to enough. Okay. That is my life acronym. If I have trouble with the client, trying to get them to even understand the need for their mortgage protection, right? Even though they've mailed back this form, telling me that they want the mortgage protection, but they're having trouble understanding that they need this additional coverage because they have coverage through work, or again, working with just a referral or a warm market person who didn't necessarily say, hey, excuse me, I need life insurance because I just had this life event. It's just a way to help identify the need. So I hope I wasn't confusing there. And then so when we're working our leads, okay, first off, we're always going to cover what we're there to cover, okay? I'm gonna lead kind of into the IUL portion in just a second, but I just wanna make some things clear that when you're in a home, serve them for what they asked for. We have a lot of amazing products. Like we literally have, if you guys didn't know this, we have the best products on the market and we can help anybody and everybody. You have a toolbox full of things that can beat anything out there, okay? But if we try to go in and help the client with everything on the first round, we're gonna lose them, we're gonna confuse them, and they're gonna do nothing. All right, so it's really important that if this person asks for mortgage protection, what I'm really there to do is cover that mortgage protection. I'm not really there to talk about anything else, IULs, or anything like that until I've got that mortgage protection in place, because that's what they asked for and that's what I'm going to help them with. When I start to lead into the conversation of IULs, if it's a lead, it's always going to be a secondary conversation. I'm not going to talk about that on the first round because that's not what they called me there to do, right? That's not what they asked me there to come for. So I just want to make that clear that it's always going, with the lead situation, always going to be a secondary thing. I'm going to help them with this first, fill out the green sheet. I'm going to figure out what they have so that I can have the armor to talk about it. So I can have the backing to say, hey, remember you told me about this 401k you had? Let's talk about that for a second. So there's another acronym I'm going to give you, and all this stuff, you guys, is just tools. It's just learning the skill. It just takes practice and going out there and messing up. The biggest thing for me when I was, and I'm still learning, don't hear me wrong with that, but the biggest thing for me was when I was getting going and trying to learn how to improve my skill. Like I would just go out there and run a ton of appointments, but I would also call my manager, my mom. I would call my mom, and I had to, this is funny, but I had to change her name in my phone to Michelle instead of Mom, so that my clients wouldn't think that I was calling my mom for help in the home, that I was just calling my product specialist. But anyway, her name is still Michelle in my phone because I still call her. I still need help. But the best way that I kind of learned how to get better quicker was that I would go into homes and I would call her while I was in the home, and she'd help me. And then if I still didn't make the sale, or for whatever reason, left with a sale or without a sale, regardless of what it was, I was calling her after every single home, every single time, because I'm either going to pick up a check or I'm going to learn something, period. And the best time to learn is right after you've done it, because you're still emotional about it, right? You're like, dang it, I could have totally said that different, and I definitely could have helped these people out, right? So I just want to encourage you to, if you're not calling from the home, be sure you're calling from the home. And then if you aren't making the sale, or you are making the sale, make sure that you're following up with somebody and you're calling on your manager, whoever is helping you, or your mentor, or even your running buddy. Like Jonathan and I would call each other all the time and just talk about our appointments. And I can't tell you guys how much I learned from just saying out loud what I said, and being open to hearing the constructive criticism of, you could have maybe said it this way, and that maybe would have, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. I should have called you again before I left the home, right? And then you learn from that, and you get better as you go. If I'm looking at like a set of clients, if I have 10 appointments I just want to put it to you this way so you guys can see it from a different light. But if I have 10 appointments booked, 2 of those appointments are going to be easy sales. Like if any agent walked into that house, they'd be making the sale. Okay. 2 of those appointments, doesn't matter who went in the house, nobody was going to make the sale anyway. Like they're those types of people who just love to fill out postcards, love to have people come over, but they're never, ever going to buy anything from anybody. Right. And then the other 8 or the other 6 people, so I have 10 people, the other 6 people are going to be where you need the skill. Okay. It's where you get better and you learn the skill of helping walk people through the process to get them all the way through. So just know that going in, that the skill really matters. And so being on these calls consistently, because you never know it all, things always change, right? Being on these calls and learning from other people, invaluable. So keep getting on. I know I'm preaching to the choir because you guys are all on. So, okay. So going back to the IUL, how I kind of set that up after I've made the sale, right? I've got on the green sheet. I know they're contributing to a 401k, or maybe they're not contributing to 401k, or maybe they're self-employed and they don't have a retirement set up. After their policy is issued, I'm going to call them, deliver the policy, and just kind of bring this back up. And I'm going to put their retirement plan through what I call the laser test. All right. I'm going to write this out so it's easier to kind of see. But on your page, write a big uppercase L, lowercase a, uppercase S, lowercase e, uppercase R, and then an uppercase T for test, and then lowercase EST, just like this. The reason I do it that way is so that I remember which letters are the important ones. LSRT is what you're going to write down, going down your page, LSRT. So this is how we put people's retirement through the laser test to figure out if they're in the best position. Okay, so what does L mean? L stands for liquidity. What does S mean? S stands for safety. R means rate of return. And T means tax advantage. So when we're putting people through this, we're just asking the questions of let's figure out where your retirement is currently. Out of these 4 things, these are typically the 4 things that people want out of their retirement programs, right? 401k. Okay, so what does a 401k have? It's not liquid. It's not safe. Has a rate of return, right? Tax advantage. Tax advantage is more on the front end than it is on the back end, right? So, and that just means for, maybe I'm just want to clarify, tax advantage for a 401k means it's tax deferred. It doesn't mean tax never. It just means it's going to be taxed later. Okay. We're looking for the tax advantage of tax free later, instead of being taxed on our retirement money later. We want it to be tax free. Okay. Meaning no tax later. Right. So 401k is not liquid, not safe. It has a rate of return. And the tax advantage is on the front end, not the back end. So you're paying taxes on the crop instead of the seed. So if I could show you a way, Mr. Client, to have all 4 of these things in a retirement plan, would that be something that you'd be interested in learning more about? Most people are going to say, yeah, I didn't even know that there was anything tax-free, okay? Or I didn't know that there was a retirement account that was completely liquid. Or I didn't know there was a retirement account that could be completely safe and have a good rate of return. So this is just opening the door after we've already helped them with that initial need This is opening the door to have that next conversation of putting something a little bit bigger in place, to make sure to have a good retirement, tax-free retirement program on them. So that is the laser test. I hope I did not confuse you guys with the laser test, but laser test, the reason I say that is just to kind of point out the LSRT: liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax advantage. These are the 4 things that everybody wants in their retirement accounts, but they don't know what they have. And they really need somebody to explain it to them. So all you're doing is just asking there, is, if this would be something that they'd be interested or would benefit them to look at. So those are the 3 things that I wanted to go over. Have I created, I know maybe I went through that a little bit quick, but do you guys have any questions? Nick, Mike?
What's up? I don't have any questions for you. Keep rocking. This is great.
Well, those are the 3 things that I wanted to hit on. Do you want me to hit on anything else sales wise, objections, or?
Yeah, if you could talk about what you did in the beginning that you don't do now, or better phrased, like what you do now that's just way better now that you've been in for a while, that you didn't do in the beginning, or like you wish you would have known earlier.
Okay. So I'll tell you a funny story. And when I first started, for the first 6 months that I was in the business, I remember my mom has always been so good at selling multiple policies in a home. And so I just never asked the question, I guess. But in the beginning, I remember I didn't think that a term policy covered accidental death. And this is just a funny story, so I'll move on from this after. But I didn't think the term policies covered accidental death. So in every single home, I was writing people for a mortgage protection, I was writing people term policies and always adding an accidental death benefit with MU, just because I didn't think that term paid if someone died in an accident. So I tell you that to maybe give you some hope. Like, you don't have to know it all. You just have to know. You just have to have the belief that you're there to serve people, and that you're going to put them in a better position regardless of what you do. We have so many great products and so many great carriers, and all these things that we help people with. But at the end of the day, life insurance is life insurance, right? If someone dies, it pays. Like, that's the main thing. And so I say that to just encourage you guys that you don't have to know everything in the beginning. Just make sure you're calling somebody. Because I remember I was leaving this house and I told my mom that I did that. And she was like, Megan, she's like, I'm proud of you. Way to go for making 2 sales. But you know that term does cover for accidental or natural death. Like, it covers for anything. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I got 2 apps, so that was cool. Objections on the phone. So that was just one thing I would have maybe wished I would have worked through a little bit quicker in the beginning, is not feeling like I have to know it all, but just knowing that I had the team behind me that did know. And if I needed anything, I never tried to be the expert of everything. I just would lean on my experts. We've got Gina Hawks, like, we've got Chris Norris, we've got you guys have Mark, you guys have Davies, you guys have Nick and Mike, and all of these incredible producers. I mean, you guys are killing it. So just lean on each other. That is something that I wish I would have done quicker, was lean more. I mean, I was leaning on people, but I wish I would have brought people in quicker, if that makes sense. It took me 3 years to write my first annuity. Please don't do that, especially right now. We are in a market where people are asking for safe money. Like the market is going down. And if we can help people with annuities, I mean, people are buying annuities regardless. So we have to bring it up. So don't wait that long to start asking these types of questions. Just know to fill out the whole green sheet, ask all the questions, and then go to the experts and say, hey, this is what this client's dealing with. How can I help them? Someone was asking about objections on the phone. Objections on the phone are, and I see your question, but we can go over that. We can go over that on a personal call. But objections on the phone, those are really, you just have to answer questions with a question. Okay. So if I'm calling a final expense lead and they tell me, oh, I'm not interested, or, oh, I've already got that taken care of, my response is always perfect. That makes my job a whole lot easier. They got me out in your area tomorrow and the next day. I'm always just, regardless of what the objection is, I always respond that way because it gives me a second to think about what I'm going to say next. And it's kind of that transition period, so I don't leave that blank space. But perfect, that makes my job a whole lot easier. Just make sure to have that policy. If they say they already got a policy, just make sure to have that policy out when I get there. They've got me there tomorrow and the next day. Was 2 or 4 better? Or are you retired, working, or disabled? You're always acknowledging the objection, but moving on very quickly with another question, leading towards what you're trying to do. Okay. Hey, Dan.
Hey. Thank you so much. You are a rock star. There was a couple really good questions in the chat, one of which from Rachel. She asked you to expand a little bit on the prepaid funeral stuff, just in the sense of, do you have the same talk track if someone, let's say back in 1980 something, prepaid for it and it's already paid off, or they're on the latter half of paying it off, or they're doing they already did the prepaid cremation, or they've seen something in the mail that's like, yeah, $1,000 for cremation, which we know is not going to happen. Can you just expand a little bit on that?
Yeah. So the trick with the prepaid is that it's great if you pay it in full. Okay. And you can't necessarily, if somebody's already prepaid their funeral, it's going to be hard to transition from that unless they just want an additional insurance, right? Which sometimes people want that. With a final expense lead, there's a couple of things you can say also when you walk in is, hey, when you kind of push the lead back to them, the reason that most people mail this form back into us, Dan, is because typically, one, they already have insurance and they're just looking for a little bit more, or they don't have insurance and they know they need some, or they have insurance and they're just trying to save a little bit of money. So which one of those was maybe the reason why you sent this form back to us? Because if somebody already has a prepaid funeral, then yes, they've already paid for it, but they may want additional for legacy, or just to leave behind for grandkids. There's a lot of different reasons, right? Another reason why people will send this back is because they just recently had a death in the family and they know that maybe they already had it prepaid, but they know that that's not necessarily going to cover the whole cost. I've found that a lot of people who say they have something covered, or that they have prepaid it for the funeral home, they're typically, a lot of times they've only paid for like the plot, and that's not the full cost of the funeral expense. So you just have to kind of educate them. So what did you prepay? Because a lot of times it's itemized when you go to the funeral homes and do a prepaid funeral. But when I'm explaining to them the worst to best way, the different ways that you can pay for one, I'm just trying to educate them, really. I'm not necessarily trying to argue, but I'm just trying to educate, like, these are the ways that people pay for funerals. And if they already prepaid a funeral, well, then maybe they just wanted some extra coverage, right? So help them with that. But in most cases, they don't have anything covered. So I'm explaining to them how the prepaid works, and a prepaid funeral can be great, but there's a trick to it, right? You either have to pay that $10,000 all up front, or if you pay them that monthly amount of $120, that's where I kind of explain that additional expense that you have not fully covered is still going to be owed by your family. Does that make sense? So I hope that clarified that. That help?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Rachel will probably shoot that in the chat, but yeah, there was one other question before we wrap up that I think would serve the team quite a bit, which is, you said that you kind of grew up in this company in a sense. You've been around the top leaders, you absorbed a lot of that like a sponge. And so your story is really unique in that sense, but you can't cheat the grind in the other sense, which means no matter how long you've been hanging around it and all that kind of stuff, you absorbed it, but you still had to go and make the decision, like, I'm going to go do this, right? So a good question that Nathan had was more about the money. How long did it take for you to get to your, into the multiple six-figure range? But if we rephrased it and said, like, what was the journey like in the progression, even though you had been around it, like, how long did it take you to where you felt like, you've seen most of the stuff, you were comfortable going out into the field, and it became more of a flow than like oh, I wonder what 75-year-old, Janice is going to say to me, and kind of getting that boogeyman out from under the bed to where you were producing versus like kind of like stumbling along, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So just because I grew up in it did not give me any sort of advantage to the grind, right? Like I had no, and thank you, Mom, for not giving me any special treatment. Because I would not have learned what I learned and appreciate the grind and the work and all of that like I do now. But I mean, to be honest with you, it's consistent. You can get through the learning curve really fast. It doesn't take that long to become really comfortable with doing this, because we're really talking about the same things over and over and over again. The people and the scenarios are going to be different, right? Because we're dealing with different people and different scenarios. But if you're staying consistent to a schedule and you do that, I would say, like, just give yourself 6 months to stay super consistent, booking 15, 20, whatever your number is, 15, 20, 30 appointments a week, and just be super consistent at that. You are going to get so good so quick. It's not rocket science. Like, we are not going to the moon. We are going and sitting with families, and we're talking about their scenarios, and we're calling an expert, and we're helping make sure we're putting them in the right product, and then we just fill out an online application. I mean, it is not rocket science. It does not take long to get good, because you're really, like I said, it's the same thing over and over again. It's just different people. And I would say that probably the hardest part is understanding that it's an actual human on the other end of this, right? And that every human just wants to be heard and met where they are. They don't want you to come in there and be this salesperson trying to just make a commission. If you've got commission breath, they smell it all over you. You have to leave that at the door. Leave it in your car, leave it down the street. Like, before you get to that appointment, make sure that you're in the right space mentally, that you're going to go in there and serve this family just like you would expect anybody to go in and serve your own grandmother or your own uncle or your own mom or your own brother. Make it personal. It has to be. Otherwise, we're not doing right by the people that we're sitting with, right? Because we're going there just trying to make a sale. If you're going there with the right heart, right mindset, you're going to get really good really quick, and people are going to feel that you really care and that you're just there to serve them. So it doesn't take that long. When I made the decision that this is what I was going to do and I wasn't looking back, that was in January 2016. But to be honest with you, I didn't really start until about May. And I remember that year, all I was trying to do was make the trip because I did not want to miss the trip. I had been privileged enough to be able to go on a couple of the Alliance trips before I was an agent. That was a smart move on my mom's part and my dad's part. They knew that they could kind of hook me by taking me on those trips, and it worked because I worked really hard to make sure that I would get to that trip. So to answer Nathan's question, it took about probably a year, 2 years to get to that point where I was making six figures. For the first 6 months, I still made the trip, but I was working. Like I was doing everything I could to put all odds in my favor. I was messing up a lot. I was calling on people. I was going to trainings. But once you're there, you're there. You know what I mean? Like once you learn this skill, it's a skill that nobody can take from you. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and we both came from the restaurant industry prior to doing this. And you know, he was saying, we were just talking about how when you're a server, you know, you can always go back into the service industry and wait tables. Like there's people are always going to eat. There always needs to be a server. And so regardless, that's a skill that I know. It doesn't matter what happens. I can go pick up a job and make some tips and make money, right? It's the same thing over here. Once you learn this skill, it's something that nobody can take away from you. You can go out and print money tomorrow once you've got the skill down. And it doesn't take that long to learn it, right? There's only so many scenarios, and most of the scenarios are the same. You'll run into a few different here and there, and that's why we have the team. But for the most part, I mean, it's just go out there and make a mess. Like if you want to learn it quickly, book as many appointments as you can, as quick as you can. It will take longer the further you spread those things out, right? But it didn't take that long, Dan, to be honest with you. And then I just kept doing it week after week after week after week after week after week. Discipline and consistency.
That actually leads me into a couple quick questions. We're running short on time, but there are two more questions I think would be super valuable for the team. So real quick, we know that you've been around it for a while, right? Obviously the Alliance has been around for a while. You've, in some capacity been around during a majority of those years, and it's evolved. It's evolved. The leadership has grown. The system has grown. The arc. All of these things. But to you, there's definitely a buzz in the air that we didn't really feel when we first joined. What would you say is like what you're most excited about right now? I mean, everything you've seen over the years. I mean, Alliance is obviously a monster in the industry. It's growing faster than ever, and just kind of being a veteran around it, we would love to know, like, what are you excited about right now? What do you see on the horizon that might be a little bit different, or that's kind of new or exciting to you?
It's a good question. You're right. It has evolved, and in the best ways. Like when I look across the board at the industry, first off, we're in the best industry. I mean, best industry in the world. I couldn't imagine doing anything different now, and we're in the best company with the best people. And that's just the truth. The things that I'm most excited about the fact that we have integrity backing us now. Integrity is a big deal, y'all. Having that backing and their support and knowing the heart of Brian Adams and the company of integrity, that's what gets me really, really excited. And you guys, honestly, y'all's team has come in and just made a splash in the company. And I know I'll speak for me personally, but I know I can speak for our whole team and my family that we're grateful that you guys have come in and been running like you have been. It's inspiring, it's motivating. So that energy is infectious, and it's been felt around the entire company, and we see that because we're growing, right? So I'm excited about building this thing like I haven't been excited in a while. I'm very excited about helping more people get to the place that we've gotten to, because it's freedom. Like, it feels good to just be able to do what we want when we want and not worry about it, right? And so I'm really freaking stoked to continue to bring more people on board and to grow this company, and to hopefully, the goal is integrity partner by 2025, for Jonathan and I. So
Let's go.
let's freaking go. So we're gonna jump on the train with you guys and be alongside you, and we're gonna get there together. This is a team effort. The Alliance has always been a place where it doesn't matter, like Mike said in the beginning, it doesn't matter what team you're on, where you live, what your background is, it doesn't matter any of that, who your mom is. Like, it didn't matter. None of that matters here. What matters is work ethic. What matters is your heart. What matters is your discipline. What matters is all those other things, right? And you will be rewarded because of those efforts that you put in. So I'm stoked to continue to grow this business, to help other people get to the place that we've gotten to, and truly just continue to grow ourselves too. It's a journey, and I'm excited for the rest of it. And we're really mostly excited about the growing team and then Integrity's partnership.
Heck yeah. Well, Megan, we so appreciate you jumping on. Definitely look forward to learning more nuggets. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the LIFE acronym, along with the green sheet, and doing the laser test. I mean, everything you said was like straight up gold. Matter of fact, it's like, damn it, where were you on this call like 2 months ago, right? But thank you so much. We really appreciate the servant leader that you are. I'm sure your mom is so absolutely proud of you. I know we are. But thank you for being a servant leader, coming on here and adding so much value to our team. And I'm going to be implementing that like legit tomorrow. Got a couple quick things for the team and some promotions that's going on, but I just wanted to say again, from all of us, we so appreciate how much you've poured into everybody in the servant leadership. I mean, obviously Sunday night, this is time away from your family. This is time away from, doing everything that you would normally be doing. And you decided to pour it into us. So thank you.
For sure.
Absolutely. So guys, just real quick, a couple things. One thing that really stood out that Megan had gone over is she said that she's been in this for a while, and then she made a decision to go get it, right? Something that really stands out with that is that mastery of anything takes time, but you can collapse those time frames by learning from the people that have already been there and done that. Now, there is no replacement for work ethic, and there's no replacement for just going out there and getting it. That is sold separately, right? That the hustle is sold separately. So you have to go out there and do it, but you can collapse the time frames that it took Megan and the people that taught her and the people that taught them. You can collapse those time frames by learning from people like her. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because here in a few short months, we have family reunion, and that is our biggest event of the year. We are super pumped. We have our director of training, Mr. Mark Aceta, coming out, and he's going to be running that event along with all of our top earners. Everybody there has made crazy money, and they're going to teach you from A to Z exactly how to do this. So people are like, well, why should I go to an event in another city and take time out of recruiting, time out of selling policies, all that kind of stuff? A couple quick things on that. I believe it was Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 10 days to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 9 days sharpening it, last one cutting down the tree, something along those lines, which means you have to sharpen your axe in order to be proficient out there in the field. To collapse time frames, you want to learn from the people that have already learned from the people that have learned from the people, and you get to distill all of that down and compress those time frames that would normally take years and years and years to learn on your own, and you get to learn it in a couple days. All right. The second reason you need to go, if you're writing things down, is write this down. Your level of action can never surpass your level of belief. Right now, in the beginning, you have something called excitement. And excitement is a lot like duct tape, meaning it fixes damn near everything. All right. So in the beginning, you have excitement that's like duct tape. It fixes damn near everything. All right. But the excitement is going to wear as you go on, just like your phone loses battery, you're going to lose excitement. And the thing that takes over, the reason you're going to get up and go after it is because of belief. So when you go to these events and you see people that look like you, that act like you, that maybe are lower in IQ than you, that dress a little worse than you, that have a little bit funkier breath than you, all right, winning at a level that you want to live, now you have the belief. And the belief goes up, that means your level of action will also go up. And so you're going to learn from the people, you're going to learn the stuff, you're going to meet people that started off from worse circumstances, from a worse position later on in life, and still making it happen. So you're going to be able to collapse those time frames by learning from the people and getting that belief. And that's when people really take off. Matter of fact, if you look at the leaderboard right now, everybody on the team and really company wide, everybody that showed up to the last event, which was NatCon, that's when everybody had their breakthrough. If you track all the numbers from the last year for our team, every single breakthrough, every single rank up happened after a big event, because people got the knowledge to collapse the timeframes, they got the skills, right? And then they also got the belief. So go ahead and register for that. You can register for Family Reunion. It is the end of June. You can register for that at allianceevents.com, but get with the person that brought you into the team to see if they have any discounted tickets left. Because right now tickets are a little bit more than what they were a couple months ago when we got the early bird pricing. So get back with the person that invited you in and your upline and find out if they have any discounted tickets. So there's that. Also, we got a couple promotions. All right. Right now, active promotion, anybody that gets 7,500 AP in the month of March or hits agency manager, we're all going out to Galveston to hang out at Elliot's like crazy penthouse suite right on the ocean. And there's going to be drinks. There's going to be a chef. There's going to be a bartender. It's going to be crazy. You will not want to miss that promotion. Everybody that doesn't make it to that is going to be hearing us talk about it for like the next 5 years. It's going to be insane. So do yourself a favor, go out and write at least 7,500 in premium, an annual premium, or hit agency manager, or matter of fact, just knock it out of the park and do both. All right. So that's going on right now. Also, 30 policies in 90 days. You still have 90 days, but any rolling 90-day period between now and Family Reunion is going to land you with a dinner with Mr. Mark Aceta, who many of us believe is the best sales trainer alive today. So that's still in effect. And then lastly, I know a lot of you are in Houston. Megan, I know, right? A bunch of us are in Houston. I'll actually be in Houston working with some of the team this coming Thursday through Monday. And we'll send out the details, but if y'all got some people out there that want to plug in, contact me, and either through Telegram, or if you got my number, shoot me a text, and we will link up and help sharpen. It's iron sharpening iron. So that'll be this coming Thursday through Monday in Houston. And then I know some other people are traveling, but I'll be in Wichita, Kansas 2 weeks after that. But guys, again, from the team, thank you, Megan. That's all we've got. This will be uploaded to the Legacy Life YouTube page here in the next day or so if you're wanting to go back and rewatch this. But we'll let you go get back to your week. Let's crush this week. We now have a full month in March. February was short. We knocked it out of the park. March, we're going to absolutely dominate. Let's get out there and get it. Go get what's yours. And let's all go partner. So thank you guys. Legacy Life. God bless.